The Hard Thing About Hard Things by Ben Horowitz. Building a business is not a glamorous quest. It is a relentless battle that demands perseverance, clarity, and hard decisions. Ben Horowitz's The Hard Thing About Hard Things strips away illusions about entrepreneurship, focusing on the raw, unvarnished truth of leading a company through crises, pivots, and inevitable failures. This book doesn't promise a formula for success because no such formula exists. Instead, it equips you with the mental toughness and practical wisdom to handle the challenges that no MBA program or leadership seminar can prepare you for. You'll learn not how to avoid hard things, but how to face them head-on, make decisions without perfect information, and lead your team through chaos with unwavering focus. If you're in business to build something lasting, this book forces you to confront the realities of leadership and emerge stronger for it. Lesson 1. Embrace uncertainty. Uncertainty is the crucible of leadership. It tests your resolve, sharpens your instincts, and forces you to confront the reality that perfect clarity is a myth, especially when stakes are at their peak. Ben Horowitz's experience at LoudCloud exemplifies this. Faced with dwindling cash reserves, an unforgiving market, and towering competitors, he and his team pivoted the company into opsware, transforming it into a radically different business model. This was not a calculated, step-by-step maneuver based on a trove of data. It was a desperate yet courageous leap of faith, executed with conviction and commitment, even though the path forward was fraught with unknowns. Such moments define not only the trajectory of companies, but the very essence of what it means to lead. To embrace uncertainty, you must understand that waiting for complete information before acting is a luxury you will rarely have. Decision-making in these moments is not about guaranteeing success. It's about maximizing your chances of survival and progress. Consider the Apollo 13 mission, a hallmark of human ingenuity under extreme pressure. When an oxygen tank exploded mid-flight, the astronauts and mission control faced a cascade of unknowns. No manual existed for such a catastrophe. Their survival hinged on creative problem-solving, rapid decision-making, and an unwavering commitment to adapt to whatever new challenge arose. Every solution they devised, whether rigging carbon dioxide filters or conserving dwindling resources, was a gamble based on partial knowledge. Yet it worked because they embraced uncertainty as the natural terrain of exploration, rather than fearing it as an obstacle. This principle transcends industries and contexts. Look at the financial crisis of 2008. Leaders in firms like Goldman Sachs and Morgan Stanley had to make split-second decisions to save their organizations from collapse. Their survival didn't come from waiting for clearer skies, it came from acting decisively, recalibrating strategies in real time, and being willing to accept the consequences of imperfect choices. Similarly, in the early days of Amazon, Jeff Bezos faced enormous uncertainty about the viability of an online bookstore. Traditional models offered no roadmap for what he was attempting, and critics were quick to predict failure. But Bezos acted decisively, committing to bold moves like prioritizing infrastructure over immediate profits. His willingness to embrace uncertainty laid the foundation for Amazon's eventual dominance. Horowitz's pivot from LoudCloud to opsware mirrors this mentality. At the time, it wasn't clear whether the move would save the company or hasten its downfall. What was clear, however, was that staying the course in a collapsing market was a guaranteed failure. Leaders who embrace uncertainty understand this fundamental truth. The cost of inaction is often far greater than the cost of a wrong decision. When faced with incomplete data, you must learn to trust your instincts, rely on the experience of those around you, and commit fully to the choices you make. Second-guessing or hedging your bets in such moments will only paralyze you and your team. The willingness to act despite ambiguity also ties closely to the idea of anti-fragility, as explored by Nassim Nicholas Taleb in Anti-Fragile, Things That Gain from Disorder. Taleb argues that some systems, businesses, individuals, and even societies thrive under conditions of uncertainty and chaos because they learn and adapt. Leaders who embrace uncertainty cultivate this anti-fragile mindset. They use adversity as a learning tool, building resilience and refining their strategies through trial and error. This doesn't mean reckless risk-taking. It means calculated experimentation, where you accept that some failures are inevitable but see them as stepping stones rather than roadblocks. The key takeaway is simple but profound. Never wait for certainty to act. If you do, opportunities will pass you by, crises will deepen, and competitors will outpace you. Instead, make the best decision you can with the information you have. Commit to it without hesitation, and remain agile enough to adapt as reality evolves. Action, not perfection, is what propels you forward. Treat uncertainty not as a barrier, but as a natural and essential part of growth. Learn to thrive in it, and you will achieve what others cannot. Lesson 2. Lead in chaos. Chaos is the ultimate test of leadership. It strips away pretenses, exposes weaknesses, and demands that you show up with clarity, consistency, and courage. In The Hard Thing About Hard Things, Ben Horowitz describes the 2000 dot-com crash as a defining moment for LoudCloud. The tech industry was collapsing, investors were fleeing, and customers were scaling back. LoudCloud, still in its infancy, faced existential threats daily. In this maelstrom, Horowitz's ability to lead with calm determination made the difference between survival and failure. Leadership during chaos requires more than a steady hand. It demands absolute transparency, decisive action, and the ability to inspire confidence in the face of uncertainty. Chaos doesn't just disrupt plans, it clouds judgment. As a leader, your first task is to bring clarity to the situation. This begins with acknowledging reality. Sugarcoating the truth or pretending everything is fine erodes trust. Horowitz emphasizes how he communicated openly with his team about the company's dire situation, ensuring they understood the challenges and the stakes. This echoes Winston Churchill's approach during World War II. As bombs fell on London, Churchill never denied the grim reality. Instead, he addressed his nation with brutal honesty while rallying them with an unshakable belief in victory. His speeches, such as "We shall fight on the beaches," inspired resilience not because they promised easy solutions, but because they acknowledged hardship and conveyed an unyielding resolve to overcome it. Leadership in chaos also requires consistency. Your team looks to you for stability when everything else feels unstable. Any wavering in your tone, message, or decisions will amplify their fear. Horowitz learned this during LoudCloud's darkest days. Even as he made painful choices, like layoffs and restructures, he consistently reinforced the company's mission and values. He demonstrated that while circumstances might change, the core purpose remained intact. This mirrors the leadership of Ernest Shackleton, whose Antarctic expedition famously turned into a battle for survival after his ship, Endurance, was trapped and crushed by ice. Shackleton's consistent leadership, from organizing daily routines to personally checking on each crew member, maintained morale and discipline, ultimately ensuring the survival of every man on his team. Decisiveness is non-negotiable in chaos. Indecision creates a vacuum that panic will fill. Horowitz's decisions during the dot-com crash were not always popular, but they were necessary. Selling LoudCloud's hosting business to pivot into software was a painful but pivotal choice that saved the company. A similar principle can be seen in the leadership of Franklin D. Roosevelt during the Great Depression. His decisive implementation of the New Deal, though controversial, gave the American people a clear path forward and instilled hope in a desperate time. As a leader, you must act swiftly and with conviction, understanding that even imperfect decisions are better than paralysis. The most critical element of leading in chaos is the ability to inspire confidence. Your team doesn't expect you to have all the answers, but they do expect you to lead with purpose and courage. Horowitz knew that his team needed to believe in the mission even when the odds were stacked against them. He didn't ask for blind faith. He earned their trust through transparent communication and consistent action. This is the essence of leadership during chaos, being the rock your team can rely on, even when you feel the weight of the storm pressing down on you. The takeaway is clear. Chaos will test your limits, but it will also reveal your capacity for true leadership. Always acknowledge reality without embellishment or denial. Provide clarity through open communication. Inspire confidence through consistent actions, and make decisive choices that align with your mission. Your team will look to you as their anchor in the storm. Be steady, be clear, and lead them forward with unwavering determination. Lesson 3. Build resilient culture. Culture isn't a decorative slogan on a wall. It's the invisible force that determines how your organization behaves under pressure. Ben Horowitz drives this point home by showing how the culture he built at Opsware wasn't just a nice-to-have, but a survival tool. As the company navigated the harsh realities of the tech industry, every team member had to operate with a wartime mindset, accountable, focused, and unrelenting in pursuit of excellence. This wasn't a culture born of convenience or cheerleading. It was crafted deliberately to ensure that when adversity struck, the company could endure and thrive. A resilient culture doesn't emerge by accident. It is forged through consistent actions, shared values, and unflinching discipline. At Opsware, Horowitz embedded a culture of accountability and high performance. This meant setting clear expectations, rewarding excellence, and confronting mediocrity without hesitation. Culture becomes resilient when it aligns with the operational demands of your business. For Opsware, that demand was survival in a fiercely competitive environment. Every employee had to take ownership of outcomes, embrace the intensity of the mission, and hold themselves to the highest standards. Horowitz knew that in a crisis, cultural misalignment could cripple a company. Leaders must ensure that their culture supports, not contradicts, their business goals. If you build a culture of collaboration but fail to address internal conflict, or a culture of innovation but punish failure, you erode trust and weaken your team's ability to perform. The Navy SEALs exemplify the power of a resilient culture. In life-or-death situations, their culture of extreme discipline, trust, and mutual accountability enables them to operate at peak effectiveness. Every SEAL understands that their individual actions impact the entire team, and this understanding fosters a culture of responsibility that thrives even under the most extreme conditions. This is the level of cultural resilience you must aim for in your organization. Like the SEALs, you must design a culture where every person knows the mission, their role, and the consequences of failure, not out of fear, but out of shared commitment. Horowitz contrasts wartime and peacetime cultures to emphasize that context matters. In times of stability, a company might prioritize creativity and experimentation. In times of crisis, those same traits could be liabilities if they distract from the urgent need for precision and focus. A resilient culture adapts to its environment without losing its core values. Amazon, for example, has famously embedded a culture of customer obsession and frugality. These principles are not decorative. They guide every decision, from product development to operational efficiency. This culture has allowed Amazon to weather economic downturns and outpace competitors by staying relentlessly focused on what matters most. Creating a resilient culture requires more than words. It demands action. Platitudes like, "We value teamwork," or "We're committed to excellence," mean nothing if they aren't reinforced through behavior. Horowitz demonstrates this by rewarding employees who embody Opsware's principles and addressing those who don't. If someone didn't perform to the expected standard, they weren't ignored or coddled. They were either coached to improve or shown the door. This isn't about being ruthless. It's about being consistent. People within an organization take cultural cues from what leaders reward, tolerate, and punish. If you fail to address behavior that undermines your values, you send the message that those values are negotiable. A resilient culture also thrives on clarity and simplicity. Complex or contradictory cultural mandates confuse people and breed inconsistency. Focus on a few core values that directly support your mission and operational needs. Then embed those values into every aspect of your organization. Zappos, known for its commitment to exceptional customer service, integrates its cultural principles into hiring, training, and daily operations. Employees don't just know the values, they live them. This kind of alignment ensures that when challenges arise, the organization moves as one cohesive unit rather than fracturing under pressure. The takeaway is direct. The culture you build today determines whether your company can survive tomorrow's challenges. Design your culture intentionally, aligning it with your mission and reinforcing it through action, not empty statements. Reward those who embody the values you uphold and address behaviors that undermine them. Treat your culture like the backbone of your organization because, in moments of adversity, it will be the foundation on which you stand or fall. Lesson 4. Embrace hard conversations. Leadership demands confronting uncomfortable truths, and nowhere is this more evident than in the necessity of hard conversations. Ben Horowitz shares personal stories of firing close friends and addressing poor performance, actions that saved his companies despite the emotional toll. Avoiding such conversations doesn't protect relationships or morale. It allows problems to fester and jeopardizes the mission. The ability to confront these issues head-on with honesty, respect, and a commitment to improvement defines strong leadership. Tough conversations are not obstacles to be sidestepped. They are tools for growth and alignment, both for individuals and the organization as a whole. Horowitz's decision to let go of underperforming friends highlights the heart-wrenching reality of leadership. At Loud Cloud and later Opsware, the stakes were often life or death for the business. Retaining employees who couldn't meet the demands of the mission, no matter how close they were personally, would have compromised the entire team's success. By acting decisively, he demonstrated that the mission always comes first. This echoes Intel's Andy Grove, who famously declared, "Only the paranoid survive." Grove's philosophy emphasized ruthless candor and unflinching accountability in a hyper-competitive industry. Sugarcoating feedback or avoiding hard decisions in the name of comfort can erode trust, weaken performance, and ultimately derail the company's trajectory. Consider Abraham Lincoln during the Civil War, who had to navigate difficult relationships with his generals. General George McClellan, despite his brilliance, was overly cautious and failed to seize critical opportunities. Lincoln, understanding the mission's gravity, eventually relieved McClellan of his command, a painful but necessary decision that underscored Lincoln's commitment to the Union's success. In contrast, leaders who fail to address performance issues or confront damaging behaviors often see their teams falter. Avoiding tough conversations may feel like protecting harmony, but in reality, it creates a culture of avoidance and erodes respect. Embracing hard conversations requires a blend of honesty and respect. Brutal honesty without empathy comes across as harsh criticism, while excessive deference dilutes the message. Horowitz emphasizes the importance of clear, direct communication that prioritizes the recipient's growth and the organization's needs. For example, when delivering negative feedback, focus on the behavior or performance issue, not the person's character. This approach creates an environment where individuals feel challenged to improve rather than attacked or demoralized. One of the most common areas where leaders hesitate is addressing cultural misalignment. Imagine an employee who is technically brilliant but undermines team dynamics through toxic behavior. If you allow this person to remain unchecked, you signal that results outweigh values. Horowitz highlights the damage this creates, noting that a single individual can destabilize an entire culture if left unaddressed. Compare this to Ray Dalio's principles, which advocates radical transparency and accountability. Dalio built Bridgewater Associates into one of the world's most successful investment firms by fostering a culture where hard truths were not only accepted but encouraged. Employees knew that their performance and alignment with the company's values would be scrutinized, but they also knew this scrutiny was aimed at collective improvement. Timing is another critical element. Delaying hard conversations amplifies the problem, making it harder to resolve. Horowitz stresses that leaders must act swiftly to address issues before they escalate. Imagine a crack in a dam. It may seem minor at first, but ignoring it risks a catastrophic collapse. Addressing the issue early, while uncomfortable, prevents greater harm down the line. This principle applies to all areas of leadership, from resolving conflicts to implementing course corrections during crises. The takeaway is simple but demanding. Prioritize the mission and the team's health over personal comfort. When faced with a hard conversation, approach it with honesty, respect, and a clear commitment to growth. Don't sugarcoat reality, delay action, or shy away from discomfort. Confronting problems directly is not just a leadership skill, it's a responsibility. Your team will respect you for your integrity and your willingness to make the tough calls that protect the mission and elevate the organization. Lesson 5. Make decisions decisively. Indecision is a silent killer in leadership, eroding confidence, wasting time, and exacerbating problems. Ben Horowitz emphasizes that failing to act is often far worse than making the wrong decision. Leadership demands clarity, conviction, and the courage to take responsibility for outcomes, even when those outcomes are uncertain. Horowitz recalls a pivotal moment when he chose to sell Opsware to HP, a decision that carried enormous risks but ultimately secured the company's survival. In times of crisis or complexity, decisive action isn't optional, it's essential for progress and preservation. Horowitz's decision to sell Opsware demonstrates the weight of leadership in critical moments. The company was operating in a brutally competitive environment, and standing still would have led to its collapse. Selling to HP, though fraught with uncertainty, offered a chance for survival and growth. Hesitation in such a moment would not only have imperiled the business but also eroded the confidence of employees, investors, and customers. Leaders who hesitate under pressure lose credibility, and the vacuum created by indecision often leads to chaos. Acting decisively, even if imperfectly, provides a clear direction for your team to rally around. Decisiveness underpins history's greatest leadership moments. Consider George Washington at Valley Forge, facing a bitter winter, dwindling resources, and low morale. Washington made bold decisions to reorganize his army, secure critical supplies, and implement rigorous training under Baron von Steuben. These choices weren't guaranteed to succeed, but without them, the Revolutionary Army might have collapsed entirely. Washington's clarity and conviction provided the foundation for eventual victory, demonstrating that leadership in crisis hinges on the willingness to act decisively despite the risks. Decisive leadership also requires a framework for making decisions. Horowitz emphasizes the importance of principles, guiding values that anchor your choices. Without principles, decisions can become reactionary, driven by fear or convenience. By grounding decisions in core values, you ensure consistency and integrity, even in high-stakes scenarios. This approach mirrors the decision-making process outlined in Principles by Ray Dalio, where a structured system of values and reflection drives effective action. Dalio argues that leaders must develop clear principles to navigate uncertainty and align decisions with their long-term vision. Taking full responsibility for your decisions is another hallmark of decisive leadership. When you own the outcomes, whether success or failure, you build trust and accountability within your organization. Horowitz highlights that leaders who pass blame or shirk responsibility weaken their teams and undermine morale. Accepting responsibility doesn't mean bearing the weight of every decision alone. It means setting the tone for accountability and showing your team that you're willing to stand by your choices. Decisiveness is not about recklessness. It's about calculated action. Leaders must assess the available information, weigh the risks, and act with conviction. Think of Ernest Shackleton during his Antarctic expedition, when his ship, Endurance, was trapped and destroyed by ice. Shackleton didn't freeze in indecision. He immediately shifted focus to saving his crew, making rapid, bold choices to navigate thousands of miles of treacherous terrain and sea. His decisiveness under extreme pressure ensured the survival of every member of his team. Shackleton's leadership exemplifies that even in the absence of perfect information, decisive action can turn dire situations into triumphs. The cost of indecision cannot be overstated. Delaying action in the hope of achieving certainty is a luxury that leaders cannot afford. Every moment spent hesitating creates openings for competitors, deepens internal problems, or allows opportunities to slip away. Decisiveness provides momentum, and momentum drives success. Even if your choice isn't perfect, you can adapt and iterate as you move forward. In contrast, indecision paralyzes progress, leaving you and your team stuck in uncertainty. The takeaway is clear. As a leader, you must embrace the responsibility of making decisions decisively. Anchor your choices in principles, act with clarity, and take full responsibility for the results. Indecision breeds stagnation, but decisive action fosters progress and trust. Make your choice, commit to it, and move forward without regret. In leadership, the courage to decide is often the first step toward victory. Lesson 6. Maintain mental fortitude. Leadership is an unrelenting test of mental resilience. The emotional toll it exacts, sleepless nights, crushing anxiety, moments of self-doubt, can derail even the strongest leaders if not managed effectively. Ben Horowitz's reflections on his own struggles illuminate the harsh reality of leadership. The pressure never relents, and the stakes only grow higher. Yet Horowitz also teaches that mental fortitude is not a fixed trait. It is a skill you can cultivate through perspective, discipline, and support. Resilience is what allows you to stay grounded during crises and keep moving forward, no matter how overwhelming the challenges appear. Horowitz's experiences underscore the emotional burden of making decisions that affect livelihoods, reputations, and the future of a company. He speaks candidly about moments when failure seemed inevitable, when every decision felt like a gamble, and when the weight of responsibility felt unbearable. This vulnerability is not a sign of weakness, but a reminder that leadership demands a deep well of mental strength. Resilience, as Horowitz explains, is not about avoiding these moments of doubt, but about learning to navigate them without losing sight of your mission. Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning offers a profound parallel to Horowitz's lessons. Frankl, a Holocaust survivor, wrote about finding purpose even in the face of unimaginable suffering. His philosophy, that survival depends on the ability to ascribe meaning to one's struggles, applies equally to the trials of leadership. Just as Frankl found strength in focusing on the things he could control, leaders must anchor themselves in their purpose and mission when facing adversity. Mental fortitude is built on this foundation of purpose. It is the reason you keep going when everything else seems to fall apart. Perspective is a critical tool in building resilience. When Horowitz faced sleepless nights, he learned to step back and remind himself of the bigger picture. Perspective allows you to see setbacks as temporary rather than permanent, as opportunities to learn rather than reasons to quit. Consider the Apollo 11 mission, where Neil Armstrong and his team faced countless near-catastrophic moments. Their ability to maintain perspective, focusing on one challenge at a time without losing sight of the end goal, ensured their success. As a leader, you must adopt a similar mindset. Instead of letting fear or frustration paralyze you, focus on breaking challenges into manageable steps and addressing them systematically. Support systems are equally vital. Horowitz credits much of his resilience to the trusted allies and mentors who provided guidance, perspective, and emotional support during his toughest times. Leadership often feels lonely, but it doesn't have to be isolating. Leaning on your network, whether it's a co-founder, advisor, or close friend, is not a weakness, it's a strength. Building a team you can rely on not only lightens the burden, but also reinforces your ability to stay focused and confident. Think of Franklin D. Roosevelt, whose inner circle of advisors during World War II helped him make some of the most consequential decisions in modern history. Without that trusted network, the strain of leadership might have broken him. Another cornerstone of mental resilience is focusing on what you can control. Leaders often spiral into anxiety over factors outside their influence, market conditions, competitor actions, or macroeconomic shifts. Horowitz emphasizes that energy spent worrying about uncontrollables is wasted. Instead, direct your focus to what you can influence, your decisions, your team's morale, and your ability to adapt. This echoes the Stoic philosophy of figures like Marcus Aurelius, who wrote in Meditations about accepting what lies beyond your control and committing fully to what you can change. This discipline fosters clarity and prevents emotional burnout. Ultimately, setbacks are inevitable in leadership. Mental resilience is not about avoiding failure, but about recovering from it stronger and more focused than before. Horowitz's journey teaches that every obstacle is an opportunity to refine your strategy, test your resolve, and reinforce your commitment to your mission. The path of leadership will never be free of challenges, but those challenges are what forge your strength. The takeaway is undeniable. To lead effectively, you must cultivate mental fortitude, find purpose in your mission, lean on your trusted allies, and focus your energy on what you can control. Setbacks are not the end. They are the proving grounds of your resilience. When you face adversity, embrace it as the opportunity to grow stronger and more determined. Mental fortitude is not a luxury in leadership. It is a necessity. Lesson 7. Prioritize the right people. The people you choose to bring onto your team will define the limits of your success or failure. Ben Horowitz underscores this point by sharing his experience hiring Mark Cranny, a sales leader whose caliber initially seemed excessive for Opsware. At the time, bringing in someone with Cranny's expertise felt risky, his salary was substantial, and some questioned whether the company could afford such a hire. But Cranny's performance ultimately proved pivotal, driving the company's growth and validating the decision to prioritize top-tier talent. This lesson is simple but non-negotiable. Your organization's strength mirrors the strength of its people, so you must prioritize hiring, developing, and retaining a-level talent. Settling for mediocrity is a shortcut to mediocrity itself. Horowitz's decision to hire Cranny reflects the principle that you must think long-term when building your team. Cranny's ability to scale Opsware's sales operations was instrumental in its eventual success. By investing in someone who could lead at the highest level, Horowitz ensured that the company's ambitions were matched by its talent. This principle is echoed in Steve Jobs' philosophy at Apple. Jobs was famously uncompromising when it came to hiring. He believed that great companies are built by great people and insisted that only the best should be entrusted with critical work. This ethos was evident in the creation of the original Macintosh team, which Jobs referred to as pirates because they were exceptional, rebellious, and deeply committed to innovation. Prioritizing the right people is not just about hiring the best. It's about creating an environment where talent can thrive. Horowitz emphasizes that top performers need clear expectations, meaningful challenges, and the freedom to execute. Without these conditions, even the best hires can underperform or disengage. Think of the Chicago Bulls under Phil Jackson during the 1990s. The team's roster, led by Michael Jordan, was undoubtedly talented, but it was Jackson's leadership and ability to create an environment of trust and accountability that turned them into champions. Jackson understood how to harness individual strengths while aligning everyone with the team's mission. To prioritize the right people, you must also make hard decisions about those who don't align with your organization's values or performance standards. Horowitz stresses the importance of holding every team member to the highest standard, no matter their position or tenure. Allowing mediocrity to persist sends a message that excellence is optional. This is where many leaders falter, hesitating to address underperformance or toxic behavior for fear of conflict or disruption. Yet failing to act undermines the team as a whole. Consider the contrast between a company that tolerates mediocrity and one like Netflix, which famously operates with a keeper test. If a leader wouldn't fight to keep a team member, that person is let go. This ruthless commitment to talent ensures that only the best remain, driving the company's sustained success. Developing your team is equally critical. Hiring A-level talent is only the beginning. You must invest in their growth and ensure they have the resources to excel. Horowitz emphasizes that leaders must actively mentor and challenge their people, providing both the guidance and the opportunities needed to advance their skills. This mirrors the approach described in Angela Duckworth's Grit, where high achievers are nurtured by environments that combine high expectations with unwavering support. By fostering a culture of continuous development, you ensure that your team evolves alongside the demands of your business. Finally, prioritizing the right people requires clarity about what the right people means for your organization. The right person isn't just the most qualified on paper. They're the one who aligns with your mission, embraces your values, and is driven to contribute to the collective success of the team. This alignment is critical for building cohesion and resilience, particularly during times of adversity. The takeaway is unequivocal. Never settle when it comes to your team. Hire the best, hold them to the highest standards, and invest in their growth. Surround yourself with people whose strengths elevate the organization and whose commitment matches your own. Your success depends on their success, so make every hire and every decision about your team with the utmost care. The right people won't just help you achieve your goals, they'll push you to exceed them. Lesson 8. Find the right advice. Leadership is a constant barrage of decisions, and the quality of those decisions depends heavily on the advice you choose to follow. Ben Horowitz underscores the importance of distinguishing valuable insights from the overwhelming noise of opinions. Not all advice is equal, and blindly following suggestions can lead you astray as often as it can guide you. To navigate this, you must seek advice from individuals who have walked the path before you, who understand the nuances of your challenges, and who can provide actionable frameworks grounded in real experience. Wisdom isn't about listening to everyone. It's about listening to the right people and filtering advice through the lens of your specific context. Horowitz shares how mentorship from Bill Campbell, often referred to as the coach of Silicon Valley, provided him with the clarity and tools needed to make critical decisions. Campbell's advice was rooted in his own extensive leadership experience, making it immediately applicable and profoundly impactful. For example, Campbell emphasized balancing empathy with accountability, a principle Horowitz applied to build stronger teams while maintaining high performance. This mentorship was transformative because Campbell's counsel was not theoretical. It was forged in the crucible of leading and advising successful organizations. This principle mirrors Sun Tzu's insights in The Art of War, where wise counsel is presented as a cornerstone of victory. Sun Tzu emphasizes that leaders must surround themselves with advisors who understand strategy, terrain, and the nature of conflict. Choosing the wrong counsel or failing to filter advice effectively can lead to disastrous outcomes. Similarly, as a leader, you must ensure that the advice you receive is relevant, actionable, and aligned with your goals. Generalized platitudes or advice disconnected from your reality will only muddy your decision-making process. Horowitz warns against the pitfalls of bad advice, which often comes from well-meaning individuals who lack the necessary perspective or expertise. Advice can be biased, overly simplistic, or based on assumptions that don't apply to your situation. This is why context matters. The same strategy that works for a large corporation may fail miserably in a startup. The same decision that succeeds in a stable market may backfire during a crisis. Your role as a leader is to critically evaluate advice, separating what's relevant from what's noise. Consider the case of Netflix co-founder Reed Hastings, who sought guidance when transitioning the company from a DVD rental service to a streaming platform. Hastings didn't rely solely on traditional media executives. Instead, he sought insights from technology leaders and innovators who understood the digital landscape. This ability to find and apply the right advice allowed Netflix to pivot successfully and become a dominant force in entertainment. The lesson is clear. The source of your advice must align with the challenges you face. Another critical aspect of seeking advice is balancing it with your own judgment. Horowitz emphasizes that while outside perspectives are invaluable, no one knows your organization, your team, or your challenges better than you do. Advice should guide your thinking, not replace it. Leadership requires synthesizing insights from others with your own knowledge and instincts to arrive at the best possible decision. Consider Abraham Lincoln during the Civil War, who famously consulted a team of rivals, a cabinet composed of leaders with diverse and often conflicting viewpoints. Lincoln's strength was not in blindly following any one advisor, but in weighing their perspectives against his own vision to make informed decisions. Ultimately, finding the right advice requires humility and discernment. Humility allows you to recognize when you need help and seek it from those more experienced. Discernment ensures that you evaluate advice critically, applying what's useful and discarding what isn't. The goal is not to avoid mistakes entirely, that's impossible, but to reduce the likelihood of costly errors and increase the probability of success through thoughtful decision-making. The takeaway is straightforward. Always seek advice from those who have real experience and insight into your challenges, but never abdicate your own judgment. Filter every suggestion through the lens of your mission, context, and goals. The right advice will clarify your path and strengthen your decisions, but only if you apply it with wisdom and intent. Make mentorship and counsel a cornerstone of your leadership, and let your discernment guide you to victory. Lesson 9. Navigate success with humility. Success, while often the goal of leadership, introduces a unique set of challenges. The accolades and validation that come with achievement can quickly become traps if ego takes over. Ben Horowitz's experience with the acquisition of Opsware by HP underscores the importance of navigating success with humility. When Opsware was sold for $1.6 billion, Horowitz faced the delicate task of transitioning leadership while ensuring the company's vision and values remained intact. This required humility, acknowledging that the acquisition marked not an end point, but a new beginning. Success is never a finish line. It is a stepping stone to greater challenges and opportunities. Horowitz's approach during the Opsware acquisition illustrates how humility fosters perspective. Rather than viewing the sale as a personal triumph, he focused on the future of the company and its people. This mindset is essential in avoiding the common pitfall of letting success inflate your ego. Ego clouds judgment, isolates you from constructive criticism, and blinds you to the realities of what must come next. Leaders who allow success to become a pedestal often stagnate, clinging to past victories rather than striving for continuous improvement. This lesson aligns closely with Jim Collins's findings in Good to Great. Collins identifies humility combined with disciplined ambition as a defining trait of Level 5 leaders, those who build enduring, transformative organizations. These leaders channel their ambition into their mission rather than personal glory, maintaining a focus on long-term success over short-term recognition. One example is Darwin Smith, the former CEO of Kimberly-Clark, who transformed the company into a global powerhouse by making difficult, humble decisions. Despite his success, Smith remained grounded, prioritizing the company's goals over his own ego. His humility didn't diminish his effectiveness, it amplified it, allowing him to lead with clarity and purpose. Navigating success with humility also requires remaining teachable. The moment you believe you have all the answers is the moment your growth stops. Horowitz emphasizes that even after major accomplishments, leaders must stay open to learning, adapting, and improving. Success often brings new, unfamiliar challenges that require fresh perspectives and skills. Consider Satya Nadella, CEO of Microsoft, who, despite leading one of the most successful companies in the world, consistently emphasizes a learn-it-all mindset over a know-it-all attitude. This humility has driven Microsoft's reinvention and ongoing success in an ever-evolving industry. Humility also strengthens relationships within your organization. When leaders stay grounded and approachable, they create an environment of trust and collaboration. Success should never create a hierarchy where leaders place themselves above their teams. Instead, it should deepen the sense of shared accomplishment and mutual respect. Horowitz's transition during the Opsware acquisition involved integrating teams and aligning new goals under HP's leadership. By approaching this transition with humility, he ensured that both organizations could work together effectively, preserving morale and momentum. A critical element of navigating success with humility is recognizing that success is fleeting without sustained effort. Success is not a final destination, it's a momentary milestone on a longer journey. Leaders must resist the temptation to rest on their laurels, instead using their achievements as a foundation for further growth. This principle is exemplified by companies like Amazon, which relentlessly innovate despite their dominance in multiple industries. Jeff Bezos's philosophy of treating every day as day one encapsulates the humility required to maintain success over the long term. The takeaway is clear. Success demands humility as much as failure does. Treat each victory not as a reason to stop striving, but as an opportunity to refocus and recommit to your mission. Stay grounded, remain open to learning, and channel your ambition into sustained excellence rather than personal accolades. Success is not about reaching the top. It's about staying there by continuing to grow, adapt, and lead with humility. Lesson 10. Survive and thrive. Survival is the foundation of success in business, but thriving demands far more than merely staying afloat. Ben Horowitz's journey underscores this truth. Survival is often about weathering storms through grit, ingenuity, and relentless perseverance, while thriving requires adaptability and an unwavering commitment to improvement. Leadership is not about avoiding challenges, but about enduring and overcoming them, using each obstacle as a stepping stone toward growth. To survive and thrive, you must find a way to keep moving forward, no matter how dire the circumstances appear. Horowitz's experiences at LoudCloud and Opsware provide vivid examples of the interplay between survival and thriving. Faced with the dot-com crash, mounting losses, and a volatile market, Horowitz didn't crumble under pressure. Instead, he made painful but necessary decisions, pivoting the company's business model, downsizing when needed, and securing funding against incredible odds. These moments of survival weren't glamorous, but they laid the groundwork for future success. Thriving, in Horowitz's context, meant transforming these desperate measures into strategic victories, culminating in Opsware's sale to HP. His ability to adapt, innovate, and persevere ensured not just survival but eventual triumph. This principle resonates with the early struggles of Airbnb. Before the platform became a household name, its founders, Brian Chesky, Joe Gebbia, and Nathan Blecharczyk, faced repeated rejection from investors. With no external funding, they maxed out their credit cards and resorted to selling custom cereal boxes to keep the company alive. Survival was their first priority. But their willingness to innovate and persevere through rejection eventually led to a breakthrough. By refusing to quit, they turned Airbnb into one of the most disruptive and successful companies in the hospitality industry. The lesson is clear. Survival often requires grit and creativity, but thriving comes from using those hard-fought lessons to fuel growth. Adaptability is at the heart of thriving. The ability to pivot when circumstances demand it separates companies that endure from those that collapse. Horowitz's decision to shift LoudCloud's focus to software was a bold move that redefined the company's trajectory. This adaptability mirrors Darwin's principle. It's not the strongest or smartest who survive, but those most responsive to change. Companies like Netflix exemplify this adaptability. Originally a DVD rental service, Netflix pivoted to streaming and later to original content production, staying ahead of industry shifts and consumer demands. Leaders must embrace change not as a threat, but as an opportunity to innovate and expand. Creative problem-solving is another cornerstone of survival and thriving. When resources are limited and options appear constrained, ingenuity becomes your greatest asset. Horowitz highlights moments where unconventional thinking provided critical lifelines. Similarly, during the Apollo 13 mission, NASA engineers faced life-threatening challenges after an onboard explosion. Their ability to improvise, such as building a carbon dioxide filter from limited materials, turned potential disaster into a successful return. Leaders must cultivate this mindset of resourcefulness, teaching their teams to view constraints as opportunities to think differently and solve problems creatively. The emotional resilience required to survive and thrive cannot be overlooked. The grind of pushing through adversity takes a toll, but leaders who maintain focus and composure inspire their teams to do the same. Horowitz's sleepless nights and moments of self-doubt didn't prevent him from pressing forward. He modeled the resilience he expected from his team, demonstrating that perseverance is as much about mindset as action. In this way, leaders set the tone for their organizations, proving that grit and determination are contagious. The ultimate takeaway is this: survival is your first objective, but thriving is what gives your efforts meaning. No matter the odds, find a way to keep going. Adapt to changing circumstances, embrace creativity under pressure, and draw strength from your purpose. Thriving isn't about avoiding challenges, it's about learning to grow through them. Refuse to quit, seek solutions in every setback, and lead with the conviction that the best is always yet to come. Conclusion: building a business isn't about avoiding the hard things, but confronting them with resilience, decisiveness, and integrity. Horowitz's lessons remind you to embrace uncertainty, lead through chaos, build culture intentionally, and prioritize people who share your vision. For further inspiration, explore Jim Collins's Good to Great and Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning, which complement these ideas by diving deeper into leadership and purpose. Your journey as a leader will test you, but it will also define you. Face the hard things with courage, and you'll build something extraordinary. The end.